The stars looked different today. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the big window of his spaceship and watched something that made his heart beat fast. Dark shapes were coming out of empty space, growing bigger and bigger until they blocked out the light from distant suns. Jake had been a space captain for 15 years. He had seen many strange things in the black emptiness between planets, but he had never seen anything like this. The alien ships were huge, bigger than cities. They moved like living things, twisting and turning as they came closer to Earth. "Captain," said Lisa Parker, walking up beside him. She was his second in command, a smart woman who never got scared easily. But today her voice shook a little. "We're getting reports from all over the solar system. There are hundreds of them." Jake nodded slowly. His ship, the Defender, was the best Earth had built. It was fast and strong, with weapons that could blow up asteroids. But looking at the alien fleet, he felt like a child with a toy gun facing a real army. Dr. Alan Foster came running onto the bridge. He was a thin man with gray hair who spent most of his time looking at computer screens and studying alien technology. His face was white with fear. "Captain Morrison," he said, trying to catch his breath, "I've been watching their ships with our best equipment. They're not made of metal like ours. They're alive somehow. Organic, like they grew them instead of building them." Jake felt cold. Earth had always wondered if aliens existed. Now they knew, and the aliens had come with warships. "How many ships do we have ready to fight?" Jake asked Lisa. 43 ships with weapons," she answered. "Maybe 60 more that could help in some way. The Russians have 12 good ships. The Chinese have 8. The Europeans built 15 new ones last year." Jake did the math in his head. Earth had maybe 100 ships that could fight. The aliens had at least 500, maybe more, and their ships were much bigger. Beth Collins sat at her communication station wearing headphones and watching her screens. She was young, maybe 25, but she was the best at talking to other ships across space. Her eyes went wide. "Captain," she said, "we're getting a message from the alien fleet. They want to talk." Jake straightened his uniform. He had trained for this moment his whole life, but he never thought it would really happen. "Put it on the main screen." The big screen at the front of the bridge lit up. Static filled the screen for a moment, then cleared. Jake found himself looking at something from his worst nightmares. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that looked like dark leather. It had 6 arms and eyes that glowed red in the darkness. When it spoke, its voice was deep and cold, like wind blowing through a grave. "Small creatures of the third planet," the alien said. The words came through their computers, translated into English. "I am Admiral Kexathera of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to add your world to our collection." Jake stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but he kept his voice steady. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Space Force. You are not welcome here. Leave our solar system now." The alien made a sound that might have been laughing. "Your bravery is noted but meaningless. We have destroyed 47 worlds before yours. Some had technology far beyond what you possess. All of them fell to our might." Dr. Foster moved closer to Jake and whispered, "Captain, I'm reading their energy patterns. Something's not right. Their ships are using power sources I don't understand." Admiral Kexathera continued talking. "You have one of your Earth days to surrender. Gather your leaders and tell them the Zephyrian Empire now owns this system. Resist us and we will turn your planet into ash and dust." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. These aliens thought humans would just give up without a fight. They were wrong. "Admiral Kexathera," Jake said, making his voice as strong as he could, "humanity rejects your demands. We will defend our home with everything we have." The alien's red eyes seemed to burn brighter. "Then you have chosen death. When the sun rises tomorrow on your world, it will shine on Zephyrian slaves or on nothing at all." The screen went dark. The bridge was quiet for a long moment. Everyone stared at the black screen where the alien's face had been. Jake could hear people breathing hard, could see the fear in their eyes. "Lisa," Jake said finally, "send a message to every human ship in the system. Tell them to prepare for battle." "Yes, sir." Lisa replied, her fingers flying over her control panel. Dr. Foster grabbed Jake's arm. Captain, there's something else. While that alien was talking, I was scanning their ships. The energy readings don't make sense. It's like their technology works on completely different rules than ours. What do you mean? Jake asked. I mean their ships shouldn't be able to exist, Foster said. The power they're generating would tear apart any normal matter, but somehow they're holding together. It's like they found a way to break the laws of physics. Jake looked out the window again. The alien ships were getting closer. Soon they would reach Earth's outer defenses. Space stations with big guns, missile platforms, fighter squadrons with brave pilots. It wouldn't be enough. Jake knew that. Everyone on the bridge knew that. But humans had never been good at giving up. Get me a line to Earth Command, Jake ordered, and contact every ship captain in the fleet. We need to work together if we're going to have any chance. As Beth worked to connect him with Earth's military leaders, Jake thought about his home planet. Blue oceans and green forests, cities full of people who had never seen an alien warship, children playing in parks who didn't know that death was coming from the stars. The aliens had made one mistake. They thought humans would be like the other 47 species they had conquered. They thought fear would make humans weak. They were about to learn that fear could make humans very dangerous indeed. The first alien fighters came like angry hornets from their giant ships. Colonel Steve Hayes sat in the cockpit of his fighter jet, the Phoenix, watching the enemy ships get closer on his screen. His hands gripped the controls tight as he spoke. Into his radio. All fighters, this is Colonel Hayes. Stay close to your wingmen. These aliens are bigger than us, but we know how to fly better. Lieutenant Carl Young flew beside him in his own fighter. Carl was only 23 years old, but he was one of the best pilots Hayes had ever seen. Colonel, I count over 200 enemy fighters coming our way. Hayes looked at his own screen. The alien ships moved in straight lines like they were following some kind of pattern. Human pilots never flew that way. They moved like birds, twisting and turning, using every trick they knew. Remember your training, Hayes said into the radio. Hit them fast and get out. Don't try to be heroes. The first battle began above Earth's moon. Hayes fired his missiles at the closest alien ship. The missile hit and the alien fighter exploded in a ball of fire. But 3 more alien ships turned toward him, shooting beams of red light that cut through space. Carl Young dove down and fired at one of the aliens chasing Hayes. His bullets tore through the alien ship's wing, sending it spinning into the darkness. Got one, Colonel. But for every alien ship they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. Hayes watched his fuel gauge drop lower and lower. Human fighters were fast, but they couldn't stay in space forever. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexathera watched the battle through his own screens. The humans were fighting harder than expected. Their ships moved in ways that made no sense, like they were ignoring the normal rules of space combat. Sub-Commander Veltar, Kexathera called to his assistant. Why are we losing so many fighters? These humans have primitive technology. Veltar looked nervous. He was smaller than the Admiral, with only 4 arms instead of 6. Sir, the human pilots fight differently than other species. They don't follow standard attack patterns. They seem to make up new tactics as they fight. Kexathera felt something he hadn't felt in many years. Doubt. In 47 previous invasions, enemy fighters had fought in predictable ways. The humans were different. They fought like they had nothing to lose. Down on Earth, General Frank Cooper stood in a big room full of computers and screens. This was the Pentagon, the center of Earth's military command. Beside him, Secretary of Defense Helen Martinez watched reports coming in from all over the world. General Cooper, said a young officer, we're getting messages from every continent. Our forces in Australia report alien ships landing near Sydney. South America says they're fighting alien ground troops in Brazil. Europe is under attack too. Cooper nodded grimly. The aliens weren't just attacking from space. They were trying to take over the whole planet at once. Major Tony Blake was fighting in Australia. His soldiers hid in the rocky hills outside Sydney, shooting at alien soldiers with their rifles. The aliens were tall and strong, but they seemed confused by human guerrilla tactics. These aliens fight like robots, Blake said into his radio. They stand in the open and shoot. They don't know how to hide or use cover. In South America, Colonel Amy Rodriguez led her troops through the jungle. The aliens had landed near the Amazon River, but the thick trees made it hard for their big ships to see human soldiers. Rodriguez's men struck fast and then disappeared into the green forest. The aliens can't adapt, Rodriguez reported to Cooper. They keep using the same attack patterns even when those patterns don't work. Back in space, Dr. Foster worked in his laboratory on Captain Morrison's ship. He had been studying the alien technology they had captured from destroyed fighters. What he found made his hands shake with excitement. "Captain Morrison," he said into his communicator, "I think I found something important. These alien ships use a kind of technology I've never seen before. They connect all their ships together with some kind of mental link." Morrison's voice came back through the speaker. "What does that mean, Doctor?" "It means all their ships think the same way," Foster explained. "They share information instantly, but they also share weaknesses. If we can find the right frequency, we might be able to disrupt their whole network." Foster had discovered that the alien ships used living tissue mixed with metal. The organic parts were connected by electrical signals, like a giant brain spread across their entire fleet. But brains could be confused if you knew the right way to scramble the signals. "How long do you need?" Morrison asked. "Give me 6 hours, and a team of engineers," Foster replied. "I think I can build a weapon that will hurt their whole fleet at once." While Foster worked, the space battle continued. Hayes and his fighters had been joined by pilots from other countries. Russian pilots flew alongside Americans. Chinese fighters fought next to European ships. For the first time in human history, all of Earth's military forces were working together. "This is Captain Pierre Dubois of the European fleet," came a voice, with a French accent over the radio. "We are moving to support your position, Colonel Hayes." "This is Captain Yuki Tanaka from the Asian Alliance," said another voice. "Our ships are coming from the south. We'll hit the aliens from behind." Hayes smiled as he fired another missile. Humans might fight each other sometimes, but when aliens threatened their home planet, they became one people. Admiral Kexthera was no longer smiling. His fleet had expected to destroy Earth's defenses in a few hours. Instead, the battle had been going on all day. Worse, the humans seemed to be getting better at fighting as time went on. "Admiral," Veltar reported, "we've lost 30% of our fighters. The humans are adapting to our weapons faster than we predicted. How is this possible?" Kexthera demanded. "These creatures have barely left their home planet. They should not be able to resist our technology." Veltar hesitated before answering. "Sir, there's something strange about human brain patterns. Our sensors show they're thinking in ways we've never seen before. It's like their minds work on multiple levels at the same time." Kexthera felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a species that could adapt so quickly to new threats. Most civilizations fought with the same tactics their ancestors had used for thousands of years. Humans seemed to invent new ways of fighting every few minutes. The Admiral looked at his screens showing the battle. Human ships were now moving in formations that seemed impossible. They flew in patterns that should have resulted in collisions, but somehow they never crashed into each other. It was like they could read each other's minds. "Veltar," Kexthera said quietly, "send a message to the Zephyrian High Command. Tell them we may need reinforcements." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Kexthera was not certain of victory. The second day of war brought bigger alien ships. Captain Morrison watched through his window as massive battleships came out of the darkness between stars. These ships were 10 times larger than the fighters from yesterday. They looked like floating cities made of black metal and living tissue. "My God," whispered Lisa Parker standing beside Morrison. "How are we supposed to fight those?" Dr. Foster had worked all night in his laboratory. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but his hands moved quickly over his equipment. He had built something new, something that might work against the alien ships. "Captain," Foster called out, "the electromagnetic pulse weapon is ready for testing. We need to try it on one of their smaller ships first." Lieutenant Commander Nick Peterson commanded the destroyer Vengeance. His ship was smaller than Morrison's, but it was fast and tough. Peterson had volunteered to test Foster's new weapon. Vengeance is in position, Peterson reported over the radio. I can see 3 alien fighters ahead of us. Remember, Foster's voice came through the speakers. The weapon sends out electrical signals that should confuse their organic systems. Fire when you're close enough. Peterson pressed the trigger. Instead of bullets or missiles, his ship sent out invisible waves of electricity. The alien fighters suddenly stopped moving. They drifted in space like dead fish in water. It worked, Peterson shouted. The alien ships are completely dead in space. But Admiral Kexathera had been watching. He was angry that the humans had found a way to stop his fighters. It was time to use the Zephyrian Empire's most feared weapon. Release the neural parasites, Kexathera ordered. Tiny living creatures, too small to see, began floating out from the alien ships. They moved through space like invisible clouds, looking for human minds to enter. The parasites were designed to take control of enemy brains and turn them into slaves. On the research station Galileo, Dr. Susan Wright was studying samples of alien technology when her instruments detected something new. She called her team together quickly. Dr. Adams, Dr. Morgan, she said to her assistants, look at these readings. There's something in space that wasn't there before. Something alive. Dr. Greg Adams was a biologist who studied living things. He looked at the data on his computer screen and felt his heart skip a beat. Susan, these readings show millions of microscopic organisms floating in space around our ships. Dr. Kate Morgan specialized in alien life forms. She had studied creatures from other planets for years, but she had never seen anything like this. They're not just floating randomly, she said. They're moving toward our ships on purpose. The first human to be infected was a pilot named Robert Collins. He was flying patrol near Earth's moon when the parasites found him. At first he felt nothing. Then his head began to hurt. Then his thoughts became confused. Control, this is Collins, he said into his radio. But his voice sounded different, flatter. I am returning to base to surrender my ship to the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Morrison heard the transmission and felt ice in his veins. All ships, this is Morrison. Do not approach Collins. Something has happened to him. But it was too late. The parasites were spreading from ship to ship, from person to person. Soon dozens of human pilots were flying their ships toward the alien fleet, ready to surrender. Dr. Wright worked frantically in her laboratory. She had captured some of the parasites in a special container and was studying them under her microscope. What she saw made her call an emergency meeting. The parasites aren't just weapons, she announced to Morrison and the other commanders. They're carrying information, genetic information from every species the aliens have conquered. Morrison felt confused. What does that mean, Doctor? Dr. Adams looked up from his computer. It means the aliens have been collecting DNA samples from all the races they've destroyed. They're like scientists studying different types of life. But why? Asked Lisa Parker. Dr. Wright pulled up images on the main screen. They showed complex patterns of genetic code, like blueprints for building living things. They're looking for something specific, something they haven't found in the other 47 species they've conquered. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexathera was studying his own reports. The neural parasites had successfully infected many humans, but something was wrong. The human minds were resisting in ways that should not be possible. Subcommander Veltar, Kexathera called. Why are the parasites having difficulty controlling human minds? Veltar looked at his data screens nervously. Admiral, the human brain structure is unlike anything we've encountered. Their neural patterns are extremely complex. It's like their minds exist on several different levels at the same time. Kexathera felt that cold fear growing stronger in his chest. Show me the genetic analysis. Veltar brought up the DNA patterns they had collected from human subjects. As Kexathera studied the information, his 6 eyes widened in shock. This is impossible, he whispered. What is it, Admiral? Veltar asked. These genetic markers, Kexathera said, his voice shaking. I've seen them before, in the ancient archives, from the war against the architects. Veltar stepped backward. Every Zephyrian knew about the architects. They were the ancient race that had nearly destroyed the Zephyrian Empire millions of years ago. The war against them had lasted for centuries and cost billions of lives. But the architects were destroyed, Veltar said. We made sure of that. Kexthara looked at the genetic data again. The patterns were unmistakable. Somehow, somewhere, the architects had created one final weapon before their extinction. They had designed a species that looked primitive, but carried the potential for incredible power. Send an immediate message to the Zephyrian High Command, Kexthara ordered. Tell them we have found architect spawn. Request immediate reinforcements. Back on Earth, Dr. Wright was making her own discovery. Deep in the human genetic code, she had found something that should not exist. Artificial modifications. That were millions of years old, Captain Morrison, she said into her communicator. I need to speak with you immediately. What I've found changes everything. Morrison left his command post and went to Wright's laboratory. Foster, Adams, and Morgan were already there, looking at computer screens full of genetic data. Captain, Wright said, her voice very quiet. We're not entirely human, not naturally human anyway. Morrison felt the world spinning around him. What are you talking about? Our DNA has been modified, Adams explained. Artificially enhanced by some other species millions of years ago. Our brains, our ability to adapt quickly, our capacity for rapid technological development, these aren't natural human traits. Foster looked up from his computer. We're weapons, Captain. Biological weapons designed by an extinct race to be the ultimate warriors. Morrison sat down heavily in a chair. Everything suddenly made sense. The way humans could adapt to alien technology so quickly, the way they could work together despite their differences, the way they refused to give up even when facing impossible odds. The aliens know, don't they? Morrison asked. Wright nodded. I think they've figured it out, and I think it terrifies them. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexthara was receiving new orders from his commanders. The message was clear. Humanity must be completely destroyed. Every human, every trace of human civilization must be wiped from existence. The Zephyrian Empire had learned from their war with the architects. They had made the mistake of leaving some architect technology intact, allowing it to eventually create humanity. They would not make that mistake again. Prepare the planet-killer weapons, Kexthara ordered. We will turn Earth into a dead rock. No human will survive to carry on the architect legacy. But as he gave the order, Kexthara couldn't shake the feeling that he was already too late. The humans had been changing since the war began. Getting smarter, more coordinated, more dangerous. What if they were already becoming what their creators had intended them to be? The third day of war was the darkest day in human history. Half of Earth's space fleet floated dead in the darkness, destroyed by alien weapons. Cities burned on every continent as alien soldiers marched through the streets. Colonel Hayes flew his fighter through the smoke above New York City. Below him, alien ships dropped more soldiers onto the burning streets. His fuel was almost gone and his weapons were nearly empty, but he kept fighting. This is Hayes to all remaining pilots, he said into his radio. We can't let them take the city. Keep hitting them until we have nothing left. In Australia, Major Blake led a small group of soldiers through the ruins of Sydney. They had been fighting for 3 days without sleep, using hit-and-run tactics against the alien ground forces. Blake's men were tired and scared, but they refused to surrender. The aliens don't understand how humans fight, Blake told his soldiers as they hid in a bombed-out building. They think if they destroy our big cities and kill our leaders, we'll give up. They don't know that every human is a fighter. Dr. Foster worked frantically in his laboratory aboard Captain Morrison's ship. Around him, computers showed the terrible truth he and Dr. Wright had discovered in human DNA. The genetic modifications were clear now, written in the very cells of every human being. Captain, Foster said when Morrison entered the lab, I've finished analyzing the genetic data. What we found is worse than we thought. Morrison looked tired. He had been commanding the defense of Earth for 3 days, watching good people die while alien ships kept coming. Tell me, Doctor. Dr. Wright joined them, carrying a tablet computer full of data. The modifications in our DNA aren't random, Captain. They're a complete redesign of what humans were supposed to be. Our brains, our bodies, our ability to adapt. Everything was changed. Changed by who? Morrison asked. By a race called the Architects, Foster replied. According to the genetic markers, they existed millions of years ago. They were at war with the Zephyrian Empire. Dr. Wright showed Morrison images on her tablet. The Architects were losing the war, Captain. So they created us as their final weapon. A species that would look primitive, but carry the genetic potential to become the ultimate warriors. Morrison felt sick. You're saying we're not really human? We're artificial? We're human, Dr. Wright said gently. But we're also something more. The Architects designed us to survive anything, to adapt to any threat, to never give up fighting. That's why we've been able to resist the aliens when 47 other species couldn't. On the alien flagship, Admiral Kexathera stood before a holographic image of the Zephyrian High Command. The ancient beings who ruled the Empire were furious that the conquest of Earth was taking so long. Admiral Kexathera, spoke Supreme Counselor Zixandra, the oldest and most powerful of the Zephyrian leaders. Your reports indicate that a primitive species is successfully resisting our forces. Explain this failure. Kexathera felt afraid. The High Command did not forgive failure. Supreme Counselor, the humans are not what they appear to be. They carry the genetic legacy of the Architects. The reaction was immediate. All the counselors began speaking at once, their bioluminescent skin flashing with alarm. Zixandra raised one of her many arms for silence. Are you certain of this? She demanded. The genetic markers are unmistakable, Kexathera replied. The humans are Architect spawn. They were designed to be weapons against us. Zixandra's eyes glowed with ancient hatred. Then you understand what must be done, Admiral. Every human must die. Every trace of their civilization must be erased. We cannot allow the Architects to win their war from beyond death. Yes, Supreme Counselor, Kexathera said. I am preparing to use planet-killer weapons. Earth will be destroyed completely. But even as he spoke, Kexathera felt doubt growing in his mind. The humans had been changing since the war began. Their technology was advancing impossibly fast. Their coordination was becoming perfect. It was like watching a sleeping giant slowly wake up. Dr. Foster made a discovery that changed everything. Deep in the human genetic code, he found instructions that had been dormant for millions of years. Instructions that were now beginning to activate. Dr. Wright, he called excitedly. Look at this. The genetic modifications aren't just making us better fighters. They're making us evolve in real time. Wright looked at Foster's computer screen. What she saw made her hands shake. Greg, get Dr. Adams and Dr. Morgan in here immediately. When the team was assembled, Foster showed them what he had found. The Architects didn't just make us into weapons. They made us into something that could become whatever we needed to become. The stress of the war is triggering evolutionary changes in our DNA. Dr. Adams studied the data. This is impossible. Evolution takes thousands of years, not days. Not for us, Wright said quietly. We're not bound by normal evolutionary rules. The Architects designed us to adapt instantly to any threat. Captain Morrison joined them in the laboratory. What does this mean for the war? Foster looked up from his computer. It means we're becoming something new, Captain. Something the galaxy has never seen before. The question is, do we let it happen? Morrison felt the weight of the decision. If they activated the dormant genetic programming, humanity would change forever. They would become what the Architects had always intended them to be, but they would no longer be the humans they had always been. What are the risks? Morrison asked. We don't know, Wright admitted. The genetic changes are so complex that we can't predict what will become. We might gain incredible abilities or we might lose our humanity entirely. Outside the ship, the battle for Earth was being lost. Alien reinforcements kept arriving while human forces grew weaker. Cities fell, one by one. Millions of people died every hour. Morrison made the hardest decision of his life. Do it. Activate the genetic programming. Foster began typing commands into his computer. Once I start this process, There's no going back. Every human in the solar system will begin changing. I understand, Morrison said. Send the activation signal. The change began slowly. Lieutenant Commander Peterson, fighting in his ship near Mars, felt it first. His thoughts suddenly became clearer, like a fog lifting from his mind. He could see tactical possibilities that had been invisible moments before. Engineer Ruby Stevens, working to repair damaged ships, found herself understanding alien technology, as if she had studied it for years. Her hands moved over foreign equipment with impossible skill. Colonel Hayes, still fighting above New York, began flying his fighter in ways that should have been impossible. He could predict where alien ships would be before they got there. His weapons hit targets that were too far away to see. On Earth's surface, Major Blake and his soldiers discovered they could move faster and think more clearly than ever before. They began winning battles against alien forces that outnumbered them 10-1. The changes spread from human to human like wildfire. Across Earth and throughout the human colonies, people felt their minds expanding, their bodies becoming stronger, their senses becoming sharper. Admiral Kexathara watched in horror as his invasion force began losing battles they should have easily won. Human ships that had been nearly destroyed suddenly came back to life, fighting with coordination that seemed impossible. Sub-Commander Veltar, Kexathara called. What is happening to the humans? Veltar looked at his sensor readings with disbelief. Admiral, the humans are changing. Their brain patterns are evolving in real time. Their technology is advancing by centuries every hour. Kexathara felt true terror for the first time in his long life. The humans were becoming what the architects had always intended. They were becoming the ultimate weapon, designed specifically to destroy the Zephyrian Empire. Send a message to all Zephyrian forces, Kexathara ordered. Retreat to minimum safe distance. Prepare planet-killer weapons for immediate use. We must destroy Earth before the humans complete their transformation. But as he gave the order, Kexathara wondered if it was already too late. The humans had awakened from their long sleep, and they were very, very angry. The final battle did not begin with weapons or explosions. It began with silence. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and felt the change complete itself inside his mind. The transformation that Dr. Foster had started was finished now. Morrison was still human, but he was also something far more than human. He could see the entire battle in his mind like a three-dimensional map. Every human ship, every alien vessel, every movement in the vast darkness of space. It was as if all of humanity had become one giant brain with billions of parts. Lisa, Morrison said to his second-in-command. But when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that had not been there before. Do you feel it? Lisa Parker nodded. Her eyes glowed with new intelligence. I can hear everyone, Captain. Every human in the fleet. We're all connected now. Lieutenant Commander Peterson felt the change complete itself aboard his ship. Suddenly, he understood alien technology better than the aliens who had built it. His hands moved over captured enemy equipment, improving it, making it better than its original design. This is Peterson to all ships, he said. I'm sending new weapon configurations to everyone. The alien ships have weaknesses they don't even know about. Engineer Ruby Stevens looked at the damaged alien fighter her team had been studying. Now she could see exactly how it worked, how to fix it, and how to make it 10 times more powerful. Her team began rebuilding the ship using human innovations the aliens had never imagined. Admiral Kexathara watched his sensors in growing terror. The human ships were changing, not just moving differently but actually transforming. Metal flowed like water as the humans rebuilt their vessels in real time. Sub-Commander Veltar, Kexathara called. Fire the planet-killer weapons immediately. We cannot allow this transformation to continue. But it was too late. Captain Morrison's voice suddenly filled every Zephyrian ship in the fleet. He was not using radio waves or any technology the aliens understood. He was speaking directly into their minds. Admiral Kexathara, Morrison said, and his voice carried the weight of millions of human minds behind it. You made a terrible mistake. You woke us up before we were ready. But you also gave us something precious. You showed us what we really are. Kexathera tried to ignore the voice, but it was impossible. The human's words echoed inside his skull like thunder. How are you doing this? He demanded. We're doing what our creators designed us to do, Morrison replied. We're adapting. We're evolving. We're becoming. The truth hit Admiral Kexathera like a physical blow. The humans were not just using their genetic programming to become better warriors. They were becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that could speak directly to any living mind, understand any technology, adapt to any challenge. Dr. Foster, his consciousness now expanded beyond anything he had imagined possible, made contact with every computer system on every alien ship. Fascinating, he said, his voice reaching into alien minds across the fleet. Your technology is impressive, but it's based on domination and control. You never learned to create. You only learned to take. Colonel Hayes was no longer just flying. His fighter. He was dancing through space in ways that broke the laws of physics as the aliens understood them. His ship moved faster than light without using any engine technology, appearing and disappearing around alien vessels like a ghost. Major Blake and his soldiers had stopped hiding. They walked openly through the streets of occupied cities, and alien soldiers fled at their approach. The humans moved with perfect coordination, knowing exactly where each enemy was, exactly what each enemy would do. On the alien flagship, panic spread through the crew. Subcommander Veltar tried to fire the planet-killer weapons, but the controls would not respond. The humans had somehow taken control of Zephyrian technology without touching it. Admiral, Veltar said, his voice shaking. The humans have disabled our weapons. All of them. I don't understand how they're doing this. Morrison's voice filled the ship again. We understand your technology better than you do now. It's based on biological neural networks just like ours. But ours are more advanced, much more advanced. Admiral Kexathera felt something he had never experienced in his long life of conquest, complete helplessness. What do you want from us? He asked. We want you to understand something, Morrison replied. You came here to conquer us, to add us to your collection of defeated species. But we're not going to be conquered. And we're not going to conquer you either. Kexathera felt confused. Then what will you do? Dr. Wright's voice joined Morrison's, speaking from her laboratory light years away, but somehow present in Kexathera's mind. We're going to give you a choice, Admiral. The same choice we're going to give every species in the galaxy. What choice? Kexathera demanded. The choice to become better, Wright explained. Our creators, the architects, made a mistake. They created us to be weapons of war, but we've learned something they never understood. Fighting and destroying only creates more fighting and destroying. Morrison's voice became stronger, filled with a compassion that terrified the alien admiral more than any weapon could have. We're going to offer every species what the architects offered us. Evolution. The chance to become more than what you are. Kexathera stepped backward. You want to change us? To make us like you? Only if you choose it, Morrison said. We've learned that forced evolution is just another form of conquest. We won't make that mistake. Suddenly, Kexathera understood why the humans terrified him so much. It was not their weapons or their technology or their ability to adapt. It was their refusal to use their power the way every other species in the galaxy had always used power. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, alien soldiers began putting down their weapons, not because they were forced to, but because they suddenly understood that fighting was pointless. The humans could destroy them all in seconds if they wanted to, but the humans did not want to. Lieutenant Commander Peterson's voice reached every alien mind in the fleet. We know you've conquered 47 species before us. We can help you contact their survivors, the ones you thought you had destroyed. We can help you undo some of the damage you've caused. Engineer Stevens had begun broadcasting technical information directly into alien computers. We are sharing our technology with you, she explained. not as conquerors sharing with slaves, but as equals sharing with equals. Admiral Kex Thara felt his worldview crumbling around him. For millions of years, the Zephyrian Empire had believed that the universe was divided into conquerors and conquered. The strong took from the weak. That was the natural order. But the humans were proving that there was another way. They were offering to share their power instead of using it to dominate. They were showing mercy to the very enemies who had come to destroy them. "This is impossible," Kex Thara whispered. Morrison's voice was gentle now, almost kind. "No, Admiral. This is what the universe looks like when people choose cooperation over conquest, when they choose to build up instead of tear down." The transformation was spreading beyond humanity now. Alien soldiers throughout the fleet began to feel their minds expanding, their thoughts becoming clearer. The humans were sharing their evolutionary gift with anyone who wanted it. "We're not going to force you to change," Dr. Foster explained to the terrified aliens. "But if you want to become something better than you are, we'll help you, just like we hope you'll help us become better than we are." Admiral Kex Thara realized that this was what had terrified the galaxy about the architects millions of years ago. Not their weapons or their technology, but their vision of what life could become. A universe where every species could reach their full potential, where cooperation replaced conquest. The humans had inherited that vision, but unlike their creators, they had learned to offer it as a gift rather than impose it as law. For a galaxy built on domination and fear, there could be no more terrifying prospect than the dawn of universal evolution, guided by species that had learned to choose compassion over conquest. The invasion fleet had indeed reached Earth. What happened next would reshape the meaning of life across countless worlds, forever changing what it meant to be alive in a universe where humanity had finally remembered who they were meant to be. Not conquerors, not destroyers, but gardeners helping every form of life grow into something beautiful.